I don't think this is going to be a popular video with some people. It's going to be controversial maybe, but I think Vladimir Putin is one of the biggest threats to world peace going. Despite his images, he's a man of peace, man of truth, and all this stuff. I know it's all image. He's a very carefully crafted image, which is fine because, you know, as a leader of the Russian Federation, he wants to bring prestige and pride to the people in Russia, which is fine to have a very carefully crafted image. But in actuality, you know, I know people say this is Western propaganda, but he's got a hell of a lot of wealth. I think his wealth is actually estimated at $40 to $50 billion. And if you even just look at $1 billion, it takes 1,000 years to spend a billion dollars at a rate of 1,000,000 years. So in the case of 50 billion years, it takes 50,000 years. In other words, you know, 48,000 years before the time of Christ, you'd have to start then and spend $1 million a year, and that's assuming that you get no interest or no return on your investment before you'd run out of money. So is that, you know, I always like to put it that way because, you know, when somebody's got $5 billion, they'd have to spend $1 million a year from 3,000 years before the time of Christ, 3,000 years of a common era if you're Jewish or whatever, 3,000 BC till now before you ran out of money. He's got $40 to $50 billion estimated. This guy's he's got a big head. He's got some ego. He really loves power. I know people say that's Western propaganda, but there's too many things that are indicating he does have this kind of wealth. But one thing that's very obvious, that's a fact, he's actually been in power since 2000. And he gained a lot of his power. He actually got to the forefront when he had the bombing of the apartment buildings, which they later found out were explosives that were only made by the FSB. They proved it. They couldn't have been done by rebels. These were high-tech explosives. Back when he went after Chechnya and he started the Chechnya War, he's going after the Islamic radicals and stuff like that. That was just a big excuse to go after Islamic radicals and consolidate his power. Those bombs, you know, that's proven. But, you know, and he's also been in power basically effectively since 2000. When Medvedev was president, he was right there as prime minister, behind the scenes, really controlling everything. This guy is not going to give up power, and this is why I say he's really a major threat to world peace. Because, like, you know, I know there's always, you know, in the United States, you can always say there's a connection between Wall Street and Washington, D.C., and all that type of stuff. But it's not like where the state is the actual business enterprise per se, and that's really what goes on in Russia. Basically, the state is almost like a huge organized crime operation, and Vladimir Putin is a kingpin in that operation. He's not going to give up power. The next guy that comes into power is going to actually throw a lot of dirt and bring out a lot of stuff that went on with Vladimir Putin, what he really was, what he really had, and all this other type of stuff. Because the next guy that comes in power is going to make himself look like a big reformer, and he's going to be the best guy and all this kind of stuff. So you always make the guy before you look like garbage to deflect attention from, you know, even what the next guy is going to do. I mean, this system's been a problem in Russia for a long time. You know, if they really had a great system where true constitutional republic with limited government, I think economically the Russians would be the #1 powerhouse in the world because of all the talent they have there with engineers and mathematicians and physicists and everything, and the higher end science that benefit mankind. Russians aren't stupid. Now, I'm not Russian myself, but my uncle was Russian. Actually, his last name sounded very much like the capital city of Russia. And he was a guy I respected a great deal. Very hard worker. He used to work for basically the military-industrial complex after he got out of World War II. He was on a destroyer against the Germans' U-boats and stuff. He fought against them. He also was a prize fighter. He fought professionally for money before he went into the Navy in World War II. The guy he's a real stand-up guy all the way, and 110% honest, and an extremely hard worker. and knew a lot about technology, and he was also a welder too. Very good at welding and all types of materials for aircrafts and stuff. Aircraft, actually, that's what he worked on. High tech stuff, high tech welding. And he was a Russian, and so like being from an Italian neighborhood, or the Russian neighborhood, that was an Italian family. I lived in a Russian neighborhood. And my uncle, I don't really have any disrespect for Russians at all. It's not the case. It's not the case. But I recognize what's going on with Vladimir Putin. The guy, the danger with him, he's probably, he is a guy that is pro-Russian. He's 100% patriot. But he also has a huge ego, and he also has painted himself in a corner. Because what's the next step? How do you make a nice, sweet exit from the power he's on right now? How do you do that? What's the next step? Who do you give the reins of power to that's not going to stab you in the back? How are you going to do this? He's got no way out. Nothing. Actually, in effect, he's a dictator. He got into power basically from that. The public really got behind him, and later on it came out that these apartment buildings were bombed with FSB explosives. Putin comes from the KGB. Obvious, right? And they blamed it on the Chechen rebels, and they basically went against all these Islamics in Chechnya and fought them and waged a major war over this, so he gets more power. What's amazing is there's a lot of people with the Islamic faith that actually think this guy's on their side. He's not at all. He's the guy that waged the war against Islamics so he can get in power. Basically, that's what he did. And he's not going to give up that power. So what's the next step for Vladimir Putin? How is he going to get out of step down? See, in the United States, I don't like Obama, man. I didn't vote for this guy at all. I would have voted for Romney if he wasn't such a flip-flopper. And actually, I was like, I voted for a third party, There's some things I liked about Ron. Well, I don't want to get into this politics stuff, but, the thing is, whenever we have a president, he's 2 terms, right? And that's it. I mean, FDR was the exception, but FDR I don't really like as a president. I think that guy was like a hidden communist to the max. But the thing is, when we have a president and he steps down, that's it. He's done. He's done. He's done. It's not like, it's already part of the game. See, with Vladimir Putin, they supposedly, I don't know how this guy's going to step down. And if he steps down, the next guy is going to, I'll bet you any money, the next guy is going to wind up, if he actually has any power, real power, he's going to be chipping away big time at Vladimir Putin's empire, and he's going to investigate Putin. And there's plenty of stuff on this guy, man. It's like people have been trying to investigate a lot of stuff, but, it's like you could see some things, a lot of hints with the opulent lifestyle in Gunvor, the other Swiss oil trading company based in Switzerland, registered in Switzerland because of the commodities benefits on taxation. He's got some freaking wealth to the max, and he's not going to give that up. So a lot of people complain about the West. What does the West do when the Western elite have domestic problems and they can't figure a way out? They go to war. Don't think it doesn't apply to other people on the other side of the world. Don't think it doesn't apply to other people on the other side of the world. Despite whatever goes on in the West, in other words, it's common theme for all elitists. Thing is with Vladimir Putin, this guy's got more power than anybody that was president of the United States. I think the only one that could actually say there was a financial dynasty there was the Bush family. The Bush family. I don't know, man. Well, the only guy in that group that I respected was Bush the Elder. He's in a wheelchair right now. He should get himself a Lukowski coil. But that guy, I know he was head of the CIA, and I know there's a lot of stuff. He was controlling stuff behind the scenes, even with Reagan. When Reagan was president, George Bush Sr. But the thing is, when they step down, they step down. They're done. They're out of power. And, there's a lot of stuff. There is a lot of dirt that's brought out on the Bush family in financial dealings. There is. In the case of Putin, it's like anybody brings out anything on this guy, it's forget about it. You know, that reporter's going to disappear into oblivion, and that's really what happens. So what's going to happen, though, is if he comes out of power for real, what's going to bring out the dirt on Putin is going to be whoever succeeds him, and he's fearful of this. This is one reason I think this guy would go to war. He would say, I'm defending Russian interests, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. And he'll be down there 2 miles below the surface in some deep underground military base, waging war while the population of Russia and the United States, or whatever the hell it is, gets really destroyed. That's what this guy would do. That's what I think he would do. He's going to try to survive right up to the last minute, and that's why he's a danger to peace. He's not going to relinquish power. And that's why I see there's a problem. That's why I see there's a problem with this guy. It's too bad he did not lose the election like this last time, because policy would be a lot different. And if he lost the election last time, the Russians don't need one person to freaking run their country. They don't need one person. There's a lot of other qualified people that could be the president of Russia and are 100% patriots for Russia. They don't need just Vladimir Putin. See, that's where this guy should never have been allowed to even been. Well, I guess it was there in their constitution, but that's the danger of having somebody in there too long. It's like you really don't know what the hell's going on. And I say this even with the American people, with the congressmen, and they say the Congress is corrupt or the Senate's corrupt. You people elect these guys all the time. You need to throw him out. If the guy's been in there 30 years, I don't even give a damn if he's a good guy. You should throw him out, because you really don't know. There's always somebody else that's good that can replace that guy. You remember, these are public servants. They're not supposed to be in there for money, for big bucks, or anything like that. That goes for the United States, too, big time. But in the case of Vladimir Putin, this guy is probably one of the wealthiest guys in the world. He's up there on par with Bill Gates. And you know what Bill Gates is about. And maybe we'll call him Bill NSA Gates, right? But you know what I'm talking about. People are only looking at the West. They're only looking at what's wrong with the West. And they're saying the Western elite is going to try to start this and that. I'm going to tell you this right now. Vladimir Putin is not going to give up power because he's scared to. Because what's going to happen is whoever comes in after this guy is going to bring up all this stuff on him. And I think there's a hell of a lot of crimes that Vladimir Putin has committed. Big time. And he knows it. And the only way he's going to survive is to hold power. How is he going to hold power? How is he going to hold power forever? There have to be a major emergency. He will go to war. He would. He would. That's what I've always suspected about this guy. I wish he would have lost the election, because it's not saying that. Tell me, out of all the Russia, is there not some other politicians out there that could do just as good a job as Vladimir Putin, or maybe even 10 times better? You're damn straight there is. You're damn straight there is. When you focus in on one guy running the country, you got to remember who runs the country. It's the people. It's the people. And if sometimes when you got a heavy hand, authoritarian hand running the country, what happens? It stifles business. And that's actually the problem what's going on in America. Actually, the problem that's killing the American economy is overregulation by the government. It's not the labor cost, it's overregulation by the government. There's more red tape to get a business started, there's more red tape to get something done to produce a product, and it costs more man hours of garbage just to comply with all this stuff than actually make something that's useful for people. And, we don't need this kind of garbage. We don't need it in America, and the Russians don't need it either, because they got a hell of a lot of talent. I'm just telling you right now. But Vladimir Putin is actually a very, very big danger to peace. He's not going to give up power. And he's going to look for, he's going to look for an excuse. And I think the Western elite are going to give him an excuse, how's that, to go to war eventually. And that's going to consolidate his power right up to the end, whatever the hell it takes. These guys are idiots, man. I'll tell you what. If I had $50 billion, I would go sponsor because it wouldn't take that much money. I would sponsor a factory that built George's Lakowski coils. And when that was built on Tesla coil technology, the Russian scientist that extends life and heals and all this type of stuff, I'd build them like crazy and sell them at a small profit, and very small profit, just to get it out there to the public. Talk about a beneficial thing. That would be a beneficial thing. But you know, when people got money, you know what the problem is? People got money, got egos. And I have to leave you with this thought. There isn't any animal on the planet that thinks the way the humans do. It's like a squirrel, you know, a dumb tree rat. We'll call it a squirrel as a tree rat, right? It's a rat that runs around on trees. Does not gather all the acorns within, 5 acres and hoard them for themselves and tell all the other squirrels to go screw. You guys gonna freaking starve to death. These are my acorns. You got to remember what 5 billion is. 5 billion means if you spend $1 million a year, it takes you 5,000 years to spend $1 million a year if you got no interest on the money or no return on the investment to use it up. I mean, if you freaking lived 1,000 years old, you'd still have $4 billion left. Vladimir Putin probably has about 10 times that even. They're talking about ridiculous. You know, like I said, there's only one freaking species on the planet that's as greedy. There's only one species on the planet that's super greedy. It's the human being. It is. It's like no animal would do this. And you could take a higher end animal in the ocean like a dolphin. What do? Corral all the fish. You got one big dolphin says, "Hey, these are all my minnows, whatever. This is my stuff. You can't have it." Only human does that shit. And it's amazing that other humans support these kind of humans like they're the god of their freaking country. I don't support Obama. I don't like Obama. But say, for instance, I had somebody in there I liked. Say, I think Ron Paul was a bunch of disinformation. Well, I think Ron Paul was a scam on us good guys. But say, for instance, he got elected and he actually was doing the right thing like he says he's going to do. I wouldn't freaking worship him like a god. No way in hell. No way in hell. I don't worship anybody as a god. They're an elected public servant for me. Period. I call the shots. They don't call the shots. They're supposed to freaking enforce the laws that I freaking say so, because we the people comes first. That's the first thing in the Constitution. We the people. Remember that. And that word public servant, that's what it means. Public servant. So, none of them are gods. But in the case of Putin, man, he's like the big fish that has to have everything. And all the other fish, to hell with them, right? Only the human species has this kind of shit. And only the human species worships that kind of crap. It's amazing.